Hello there, and welcome to TrickTip Podtalk, a podcast that is entitled to share 1001 useful tidbits for podcast listeners across the world. And like always, I'm Elle, and I will be your host. For this topic this week, as a non-native English speaker myself, I acutely aware that we sometimes have the difficulties that we need to face when it comes to learning a new language. Language barrier is one of the most significant obstacles that basically hinders us and hinders our confidence in speaking in a foreign language. We intended to directly translate our mother tongue to English in this case, and this will lead us to make mistakes in speaking, and eventually we will be dispirited to speaking. And believe it or not, this direct translation is widely applied by youngsters who wants to learn English as their second language. I assume that this happened because they were influenced by their surroundings, which may include their friends, their family, or even their local community. And because of that, here today, we are going to share some tips and tricks to encourage all young learners out there who's listening to our podcast to become more confident while speaking in English. So, with us today will be Madam Lina and Miss Sophia, an excellent educator and a student who are both enthusiastic about developing their knowledge in English as a second language. They're going to share with us their experiences and the verdicts on how they are able to speak in English confidently despite the fact that we all know English is not their native language. Hi Madam Lina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
The thank you goes back to you, Madam Lina. We are so honored to have you in our show today. Next, not to forget, we also have an excellent student whose name is Sophia. Can I call you by that name?
Yes, sure.
Well done, good to know. Hello, how are you doing? Are you doing good?
Good. I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
Madam Lina, there is something that caught my interest. How do you exactly encourage your student to speak in English comfortably?
Encouraging students to participate during English class activity can be quite tricky because each student has different listening preference, which requires English language teachers to diversify their teaching techniques. However, I do feel that rewarding students who speak out and participate actively in English lessons is the most important teaching techniques.
Ah, yes. I totally agree with that. Because, who doesn't love being rewarded with prizes? Especially after doing something that you think is beyond your limitation, right?
Yeah, and this particular teaching method is called reward systems. An English language teacher can devise a long-term rewarding system in which students must work as a group and assist each other in every given assignment, and they will be awarded at the end of the month if they achieve class targets. To make the game more difficult, the instructor must impose class rules such as not speaking any language other than English throughout the lessons, or even if they bump the teacher.
Well, to be honest, I personally think that after hearing about this is actually a really fantastic concept. Because instead of rewarding everyone for everything, a teacher, as the educator in this case, may establish a few standards for the students to follow in order for them to eventually respect their gain accomplishment. How about you, Sophia? Do you agree with what we call this system of remuneration?
Yes, I wholeheartedly concur. As a student, I can vouch for the enthusiasm and active participation from most of my classmates in any class activity involving the use of this reward system. Not only in English, but for other subjects too.
In my class, I use this strategy 2 or 3 times a month. I once awarded the entire class for speaking English a whole month, and guess what? ever since that, they keep attempting to communicate in English to get that reward again. My little tip is don't use this method regularly. It will change the student's view of learning the English language.
Agree. Then the whole learning teaching process is not about knowledge. It will be all about rewards and prizes.
Actually, based on your stories as an educator, I can already imagine an active English communication happening in your class, Madam Nina.
Yes, even though they will mix their native language with the English language, communicating in English is a normal thing in my class.
Normalizing speaking English in class. I guess this is your other trick.
Your prediction is correct. To normalize students' usage of English in class, teachers must avoid correcting errors while students communicate, since this may make them feel self-conscious, less confident in speaking, and overwhelmed with tenses.
Wow! A reward system and normalizing speaking English in class. I guess these two tips are very useful, especially for all educators out there, aren't they?
Yes! Encouraging us as young learners to speak English in class should come first, so that we will be more comfortable speaking English outside of the classroom.
What interesting tips from our first guest! The encouragement for young learners to speak in English should also be applied to everyone actually, especially from their own peers. So Sophia, as a student, do you have any tips that you would like to share to the learners and to all our listeners out there for them to be able to speak in English more comfortably?
I firmly feel that participating in any competition presents us with a plethora of chances. It is a stage for us to demonstrate our ability to communicate in English, a stepping stone for us to assess our degree of speaking, whether it's low, medium, or high proficiency, and plan future improvement that need to be developed, as well as an opportunity to make bigger social relationships.
I strongly agree with you, Sophia. As a teacher, seeing my students participate in random competitions to improve their speaking skills really makes me proud. Winning or losing, they will end up getting better in their speaking skills. Are there other tricks that makes you very comfortable speaking in English, Sophia?
Well, a trick that I will always do all the time is probably think in English.
Sing in English? Wow, that's a rare trick I've ever heard.
I know, right? Well, I know that most learners that try to speak in English will take a lot of time translating the sentence that they want from their native tongue to English language. You know the frustration feelings when talking to a person with slow pace of speech?
Well, I do understand the frustration when talking to people who talks with slow-paced speech. But does the slow pace of speech have anything to do with what you are trying to deliver?
Yup. Slow paced speech is caused by the time that a person takes to translate and compose the words in a right structural sentence. I've once had this problem, and I myself was frustrated by these bad speaking skills. So, I tried to fix this by thinking in English every time I have a conversation with another person. I stopped translating the words in my head and just directly say the first thing that I thought in English.
Doesn't that mean that you will make mistake in your speech, like the grammatical and pronunciation error?
I do make that kind of mistakes most of the time, but the more mistakes I make, the more people will correct me, and of course, the more I will learn.
Impressive! Getting tips and tricks from both educators and learners' view really help us, especially for the young learners out there, in improving their speaking skills. Thank you, Madam Nina, and thank you, Sophia. Stay there. We will be back after this short advertisement. Today's episode is sponsored by Conductive Salted Egg Cornflakes, which is a brand under Adductive Company. These irresistible delicacies should be tried at least once in a lifetime, or if not, you will regret it. So, what are you waiting for? Go to the nearest market or to Conductive Enterprise Facebook page and get them before they are sold out. Sadly, our podcast is coming to the end. Should we conclude the input that we gained from today, Madam Nina?
I actually learned a lot from our talk today, El. It helps me reach out to the students. The tips delivered by our excellent student here gave me the idea to use a variety of ways on my students. I also learned that there are various activities that young learners may participate in to improve and raise their self-confidence in speaking English. And I'm confident that if they are dedicated to increase their skills, they will be able to reach this goal.
How about you, Sophia?
In my opinion, there are a lot of ways to become a better English speaker, and learners may tailor it to their learning preference. That way, they can passionately enhance their speaking skills. I also discovered new ways to encourage students to speak English from Madam Nina.
Well, that concludes today's podcast. This information is being sent specifically for you by TrickTip Podtalk. Before I end today's podcast, I would like to say thank you very much to our guests for spending their time to participate and to offer some tips and tactics to help young English learners out there. Next week, we will be discussing a topic that I'm sure that all of you have been waiting for, which is how to become an effective speaker who can captivate audiences. Bye-bye!